So for this deep dive, we're really going to be focusing on this Command Center Cockpit,
Uh-huh. The
the
CCCs.
CCC element
Yeah.
of V1. And we're going to start with uh, MES
Okay.
in discrete manufacturing environments. So this
Uh,
is like
huh.
SMT, precision engineering, high-level assembly. This
This is
is
like ViTrox
like
themselves.
ViTrox themselves.
Yeah.
So the CCC, this Command Center Cockpit, it acts like the brain,
Yeah,
right?
it does. It does.
And that's where it integrates all these systems, the MES, the WMS ERP.
Uh-huh.
So why don't we start with the MES? What is that? What's an MES?
So MES stands for Manufacturing Execution System. And basically what it does is it functions like the central nervous system of your manufacturing operation.
Okay.
It's going to track and trace everything.
Like a digital foreman, making sure
Exactly.
every
Yeah.
now barcodes and RFID technology play a vital role here. They act as digital fingerprints that enable the MES to actually track materials
Right.
and gather data at each stage.
So with so many moving parts, I mean, how do you make sure that nothing falls through the cracks?
Well, that's where those toll keepers come in.
Toll
Toll
keepers.
keepers,
Okay.
essentially, they're like these edge control units
Yeah.
that are stationed at really critical points in that production line,
Right.
like before the printer or before the SMT machines, before the AOI
So
machines,
they're like checkpoints throughout
they
the
do
entire process
ensuring that everything is accounted for and that everything is progressing as intended.
to guarantee quality
Yeah,
and control.
exactly.
So
That's
think about it. Like from receiving those raw materials all the way to that final automated optical inspection,
mhm.
the MES, it's guided by those toll keepers and it orchestrates the whole thing.
Now, where does V1 come in? How does V1 work with
So V1 actually elevates that whole
MES?
MES situation, right?
Okay.
It provides these real-time updates through API and something called grabber technology.
Oh, cool.
It can pull data directly from those machines on the factory floor, feed it right into the MES.
So can you give me like a specific example of how that would work?
Yeah. So imagine a pick and place machine, right?
Okay.
Those are used in electronics assembly.
Uh-huh.
V1 can actually monitor the component quantities in real time.
Wow.
It'll alert the system if a particular component is running low.
So it's anticipating problems.
Exactly. It prevents
If
those
they happen.
production halts due to missing parts.
That's amazing. But what if like a station gets bypassed in the process? Does that throw everything off?
Not at all. V1 has something called backflushing.
Backflushing.
Backflushing, yeah.
Okay.
And that's how it handles those situations.
What does that mean?
Basically, it involves some manual data entry to account for those skip steps.
So it can still keep
I
track,
can still keep track.
even if a station's missed.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, we've been focusing on assembly line manufacturing, but can you use MES for other types of manufacturing?
Yes.
Okay.
So MES can also be applied to something called batch manufacturing,
Okay.
which is common in industries like semiconductor production, also known as OSAT.
So even if you're working with like big batches of materials instead of individual units, you can still use it.
You can still use it.
Okay, cool.
So take, for example, the chip on board process, or CoOB.
Hmm.
V1 can track each batch through every stage, from die attach and wire bonding to plasma cleaning and pre-bake.
Wow. Okay, so that brings us to the warehouse, right?
Mhm.
That's another big part of manufacturing.
Right, that's where the WMS comes in, warehouse management system.
And how does that work with V1?
Especially when it's integrated with V1 and these innovative smart racks.
Smart racks. Okay, now I'm intrigued. Tell me about these smart racks.
So imagine a warehouse with these smart racks that are designed specifically for SMT production.
Okay.
These racks, when they're integrated with V1, they revolutionize how you handle materials.
So how does that work?
Think about those components that you need on the SSC line, right?
Uh-huh.
Instead of manually searching for them, the MES through V1 communicates with the WMS,
Okay.
and the WMS will instruct the smart rack to guide the worker to the exact location of that component using light induction.
So it's like a GPS for
It is like a GPS.
half of your warehouse.
Wow.
And it's incredibly efficient.
What kind of benefits does that have? I mean, does that actually, save the business money?
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about a 75% reduction in unproductive hours spent searching for materials,
Wow.
75% improvement in return inventory efficiency, and then an 80% reduction in search feeding time.
That's amazing.
Those are real numbers.
Yeah.
And so finally, when we talk about smart manufacturing, we talk about ERP,
Right, right.
enterprise resource planning.
The system that tries to tie everything together.
Yeah. So what does that do?
So ERP, it acts like the central nervous system for the entire business.
Okay.
It connects various departments, so finance, planning, engineering, procurement, sales,
Okay.
all of those with the manufacturing processes themselves. So inspection, warehouse, production, workflow.
And V1 can integrate with that.
V1 can integrate with all of that.
That's great.
It provides that real-time data from the shop floor right into that ERP system.
So you're, but I'd like to understand how V1 actually enhances ERP systems in a manufacturing setting.
So ERP is all about connecting the different departments within a company: finance, planning, sales, procurement, all of that. And when you integrate V1 with ERP, you're creating this real-time flow of data from the shop floor directly into the ERP system.
So you're bridging the gap between the physical world of manufacturing and the digital systems that manage the business.
Exactly. And that gives decision makers a much clearer picture of what's happening so they can make better decisions.
Can you give me an example of how that would work in a real world situation?
Sure. Let's say there's a production delay on the shop floor.
Okay.
V1 detects that delay and immediately updates the ERP system. So now the planning department can adjust production schedules, the procurement team can expedite materials, and the sales team can proactively communicate any potential delays to customers.
So everyone's in the loop and they can adjust accordingly.
Exactly. It's all about seamless communication and coordination.
And it's not just about efficiency and productivity, right? This integration also helps with financial management.
Absolutely. Because with real time data on production costs, material usage, and inventory levels, V1 helps businesses optimize their resources and improve their bottom line.
Okay, so we've seen how V1 integrates with MES, WMS, and
Yeah.
ERP to create this intelligent manufacturing ecosystem. But I'm curious, how does V1 fit in with the growing focus on sustainability in the industry?
Well, sustainability is becoming increasingly important, and V1 actually plays a role in supporting sustainable manufacturing practices.
Okay, how so?
For example, V1 can monitor energy consumption across different processes. It can identify areas for improvement, and it can help optimize energy usage to reduce the environmental impact.
So it's not just about making things faster and more efficiently, but also about doing it in a way that's good for the planet.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between profitability and environmental responsibility.
This is all really fascinating. We've explored how V1 integrates with these different systems to create a truly intelligent manufacturing ecosystem. And we've also touched on its role in promoting sustainability. Before we wrap up, I'd like to talk about one final aspect that we haven't discussed yet, the human element. How does V1 empower the workforce, and what role do people play in this increasingly automated world? We'll be back in a moment to discuss this crucial aspect of V1's impact on the industry.